bit of housekeeping.
We've identified the OCD in the group.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure, obviously, to welcome the 2025 newly formed Charter Review Committee. I hope you all feel welcomed. This group of 14 of you folks being dedicated residents obviously have been chosen by my fellow commissioners two at a time. You're going to be charged with really playing a critical role in the future of the city of Sandusky. By our charter, every 5 years, we have to go through this process, reviewing our city's charter to ensure that it remains both relevant and effective. That will be your charge. This committee is here to dig deep into our governing document and explore what works and what needs a fresh perspective. Your voices really do matter, and your insights will guide us as we move forward. As we embark on this journey over the next 4 months, I encourage each of you to take full advantage of this opportunity, and I really do believe it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for public service. You'll begin by selecting a chairman and a vice chairman in just a few minutes. You have meeting dates that are already set, and after that you'll be diving into discussions and sharing ideas on 87 different sections of the city charter. The recommendations that you'll formulate will not only be crucial for the city's governance, but also for engaging our residents in meaningful dialogue. Once your work is complete, those recommendations will be presented to our entire commission. And then that commission will evaluate those recommendations, and they will make the final call on whether those recommendations get forwarded and put on a ballot for our electorate to make decisions on changes. This is your chance to really make a difference in Sandusky's history. I urge all of you to embrace this responsibility with enthusiasm, and I think the most important thing each of you can and will bring to this table is an open mind. Together we can ensure that Sandusky continues to thrive as we have, I think, for the last decade. I do want to thank each of you for taking on this role. I think it's a big role. I did it about 20 years ago, and look what I got stuck doing. Now I must warn each of you, some of my commissioners had nefarious reasons for selecting some of you. They really thought that by selecting you, they could trap you into additional community service, either on committees or on boards, and perhaps to run for the seat of a city commissioner. Now I can say that I warned all of you. I'll share with you that the next time you will see me will be at the end of this, at the conclusion of this entire process. I don't think you need commissioners sitting in the room with you. I don't want to give the appearance that I am putting my finger on the scale, or hopefully any other commissioners are putting their fingers on the scale. This is and should be a totally independent body. You'll have the benefit of 3 of our staff during every one of your meetings. Kathy Myers, our commission clerk, John Orzak, our city manager, and Stuart Hastings, our law director, or perhaps Melanie Murray, our assistant law director. Both Mr. Orzak and Mr. Hastings are going to deliver some brief remarks at the conclusion later in this agenda. Next on our agenda, I'll ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe we can just go around the table and hear who you are, what you've done in this community. Mr. Hastings.
Roll call, Pledge of Allegiance.
We'll start with the roll call.
Jennifer Ashburn. Here. Marianne Baxter. Abby Bemis.
Here.
Diane Corso.
Here.
Adriana Guerra. Billy Hill.
Here.
David Miller.
Here.
Mark Pfeiffer.
Here.
Tim Schwanger.
Here.
Elizabeth Semler.
Here.
Tom Schra. Jennifer Torres.
Here.
Levada Wilson.
Here.
Mike Zuloff.
Here.
Stuart, do we need a motion to excuse those
No,
attendees?
that's what, that charter provision only applies to the commission
Great,
itself.
okay. If I can ask you to stand, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Now with committee members' introductions, Ms. Ashburn.
My name is Jennifer Ashburn. I was born and raised in Sandusky, graduated from Sandusky High School, raised in the parsonage on Decatur Street next to Second Baptist Church. When I graduated, I moved away to Washington, D.C., and I was there for 35 years until I retired, and then I came back to Sandusky. I taught school for 35 years. I have a passion for education. And since I've come back, I started the Sandusky Literacy Project, trying to help all the kids I come in contact with to read, which is a national crisis for everyone. But, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Ashburn. Ms. Bemis.
Hi, everybody. My name is Abby Bemis. I've been a Sandusky resident for a little over 10 years now. I grew up actually out in New Jersey, but my family has some connection to this area. I usually tell people my story is that my dad moved back here, convinced me to take a job here, and I told him 1 year, and then I was out of this place. But I fell in love with it. I worked in economic development for a good part of those 10 years. It's a really great way to get to know the city and its neighborhoods and its businesses. And I currently serve as Chief Operating Officer of Payne Nichols and Company, a local accounting and business advisory firm.
My name is Diane Corso. I moved here in 1997. I met my husband my first quarter back then at Ohio State University and came back here to live in this beautiful community that we live in.
Thank you. Mr. Hill.
I'm Billy Hill, born and raised in Sandusky, Ohio, officially 59 years. Today is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Here at the meeting.
awesome.
I've ran a small business here for about 26 years. I'm currently in the Sandusky Mall. Ran Walmarts, McDonald's, but always found myself just wanting to stay home out of all my siblings. All my other siblings basically moved away. And as she said, it's a great place to raise your kids, which I have, and a great community. So.
Mr. Miller.
David Miller. I've been in Sandusky since 1985. It's not uncommon for me to say that I'm not related to any Millers in the state of Ohio, to my knowledge, other than the one I married and the ones I fathered and so forth. I've been retired for like 4 years now from civil service, number of jobs, but I started out at the Veterans Home where I first met Kathy and did a stint at DD where I met Diane, and retired from Erie County Human Resources where I was the loss control coordinator in charge of or coordinating insurance and workers' comp and that kind of stuff was the end of my career. But done a lot of stuff in between. For the city, I've been on the Planning Commission for a couple of decades. Bayfront Corridor, other things in the community, Active Quantian. I'm on the Serving Our Seniors Board, and so I just try to keep involved.
Busy. Thank you. Mr. Pfeiffer.
Mark Pfeiffer, 3.5 months retired after 40 years of private optometry practice in Bellevue, but moved here when I was 15. My pops was the CFO of Cedar Point. That's what brought us here. Lived in Bellevue for 20 years or so, 20-some years, but moved back home, actually into my family home about 19 years or so ago. Coming up in September, 50 years married to my Sandusky High School sweetheart. Sickening story, but it's true. We have some property here downtown as well, so love Sandusky, glad to serve on this board.
Mr. Schwanger.
Yes, Tim Schwanger, lifelong resident of Sandusky, retired from General Motors. I've been active in city government for probably the last 40 years. I've been on a number of committees for the city. Every other Monday night, second and fourth Monday night, you'll see me sitting back there participating and watching the city commission meetings. You'll see me come to the podium. I try not to come to the podium every meeting, but sometimes I do and share my perspectives of the city and other people that I've talked to. I pride myself in actually going out into the community and talking to the community about issues in Sandusky, and I try to share them with the city manager and the city commissioners when I can. Thank you.
Ms. Semler?
Yeah, I'm Beth Semler. I came here in 2020 looking for a dock and ended up buying a house. And immediately fell in love with Sandusky and then purchased some property to rehab and have been doing it ever since. And I'm a business consultant and I'm just really happy to be here and become more involved in the city.
Thank you. Ms. Torres?
And Jennifer Torres. I have lived in Sandusky my entire life. I graduated from St. Mary's and then only left to go to Bowling Green. And I'm a senior residential mortgage lender at Civista Bank downtown. My husband and I have been rehabbing homes and renting out long-term and short-term rentals in the area for about 22 years. And I'm also excited to be on this board.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson?
Hi, I'm Luveta Wilson. I was born and reared here in Sandusky, Ohio. I spent a lot of my time as an adult working for the county. I began in 1997 there. I recently was involuntarily retired by losing an election as clerk of courts, which I did for the last 13 years. Everybody told me that I would enjoy retirement. I'm not there yet, but I'm really glad to be on this board.
Thank you. Mr. Zuloff?
Hi. My wife and I chose to live in Sandusky, chose downtown really 24 years ago. We lived here a little longer. She was born in Marblehead. She's been my wife for 34 years. I don't know, I think maybe David's been on the planning commission longer than I have, but I've been there over 24 years. Sat on the Bayfront Quarter Committee, Design Review, the park, several committees, BCC continuing. So I've kind of made it my avocation to try to help where I can and understand city government.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is an important one, the election of officers. We elect a chairman and we elect a vice chairman. And I had some clarity from our law director on exactly what it took to get elected. I don't expect any of you have mounted much of a campaign so far. But because we have 11 people with us tonight, the person that will be elected will need to receive the majority of those votes, which, of course, in this case would be 6. I will open the nominations first for the chairperson, and any of you have the ability to nominate yourself or whomever else you choose. Mr. Schwanger.
I nominate Mike Zuloff for chairman, please.
Mr. Zuloff, are you willing to accept that nomination?
I will. Does it need to be seconded?
Is there a second to that nomination?
I second.
There's a second to the nomination. Are there any other nominations for chairperson?
I'd like to nominate Abby Bemis.
Ms. Bemis, you willing to accept that nomination if it is seconded?
Yes.
Is there a second for Mrs. Bemis' nomination?
I'll second.
There is a second for that nomination. Are there any other nominations for chairperson? I believe the order that we vote on this now is on the first person that was nominated. And again, it takes 6 positive votes to be elected. Mr. Zuloff was nominated first, so I'll ask Ms. Myers to call the roll on Mr. Zuloff being the chairperson of the Charter Review.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
No.
Diane Corso,
No.
Billy Guerra, or Billy Hill, I'm sorry,
Yes.
David Miller,
No.
Mark Pfeiffer,
No.
Tim Schwanger,
I better say yes.
Elizabeth Semler,
No.
Jennifer
No.
Torres, Levada Wilson,
No.
That nomination fails. The next vote will be on Abby Bemis to serve as chairperson. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on Ms. Bemis?
Jennifer Ashburn,
No.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Elizabeth Semler,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes. Just a point of order, I don't know if a vote was recorded for me on the first vote.
I internally recorded it myself, but would you give us the vote for Mr. Zuloff on the first vote?
No, how did he vote, is I think his question.
Yes, because we declared it failed prior to his vote.
Oh, so it became mathematically impossible, I see.
Correct.
So we have elected Ms. Bemis as the chairperson. I will open the nominations now for vice chair.
I'll nominate
Mr. Zuloff, or Mr. Schwanger.
Mr. Zuloff for vice chairman.
Is there a second to that nomination?
I second.
There's a second to that nomination? Do I have any other nominations for vice chair?
Yes,
Mr. Hill?
Mrs. Wilson.
Ms. Torres?
Wilson, I'm sorry.
Ms. Wilson, excuse me.
Yes, please.
Is there a second for Ms. Wilson's nomination?
I will second.
There's a second. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? The nomination process is closed. I will ask Ms. Myers to poll the commission first on Mr. Zuloff's nomination for vice chair.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
No.
Diane Corso,
No.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
Vice chairman.
David Miller,
No.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Elizabeth Semler,
No.
Jennifer Torres,
No.
Levada Wilson,
No.
I
Mike Zuloff.
think I've been already mathematically eliminated, but
We're going to let you vote.
yes, thanks.
Can you share with us the outcome of that vote?
6 noes to 5 yes.
6 noes to 5 yes. That nomination fails. Ms. Myers, will you poll the commission on the nomination for Ms. Wilson as the vice chair?
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Elizabeth Semler,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
Ms. Myers, so they're not relying on my math skills, I'll let you tell us the total.
It was unanimous.
Unanimous for Ms. Wilson to serve as the vice chair. Ladies and gentlemen, you've elected your chair and your vice chair. I will ask Ms. Bemis to take the center seat, if she can, Miller, and turn this meeting over to Ms. Bemis.
I sit next to you.
Good while it lasted.
Yes.
And if everyone could try to talk close to the microphone, because I do the minutes by the taping that Tom is doing in the back of the room.
Careful with that gavel. A little close, I'm just saying. I'll be out of control.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for the vote of confidence. Looking forward to this process. We'll just continue with the agenda then. Thank you, Mr. Brady. Our next item on the agenda are dates for our future meetings. As you all know, a poll was sent out in advance of the meeting, judging everyone's availability. So these are suggested meeting dates based on those responses. I am looking for a motion to approve our upcoming meeting schedule. Looks like we need to vote on that, Mr. Hastings.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to recommend the dates as forwarded to us.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. Ms. Myers, could you call the roll on that, or any discussion on the meeting dates?
Mr. Chairman? So there's no way to kind of consolidate these so that they're not all over the place, like try to stick with Tuesdays and Wednesdays or Tuesday and Monday? Is everybody available just to pick maybe like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or is this pretty much?
The problem was the availability of this room.
Okay,
That's what kind of made it, when you saw what I sent out to you, it was the dates that we had available
Okay.
because other committees.
that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairperson, yes. I will be unavailable on the 13th, possibly. So I don't know if there's an alternative date, I'd love it, but I don't think you'll miss me for one day. So I'll probably, if I can't make it, I'll ask to be excused, but it's the only conflict I have, so.
Very good.
Well, just to note, when I did receive all your responses back, there was not one date that had 14 yeses.
That had what?
There are people that will miss every meeting just because you're all busy people, you know.
But based on those responses, we would have a quorum at each.
These were the highest selected dates.
Okay, very good. Thank you. If nothing further, I'll ask for a roll call on the meeting schedule.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes,
Elizabeth Sandler,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one question. It says 5 PM to 6:30. Is that like a floating time? Could it be like 7 o'clock or?
I just put that as a suggested. I looked at the meeting minutes from the last 5 years ago, and it seemed most of them ended at 5 or at 6:30. There were a couple that, were heavy debates that did go to 7.
Okay.
Very good. Perhaps you can help us identify those ahead of time and plan accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is identification of issues to discuss at the next meeting. Would we like to talk about this after remarks from John and Stuart? Maybe you could give us a little bit of an overview on what to expect from the process. So if no objections, I'm going to switch this agenda order to invite remarks from John and Stuart first.
Good evening. Thanks for taking the opportunity to serve our city. As Mr. Brady had said, it's a great responsibility and something that is necessary for our governance. Our law director is Stu Hastings. He is a veteran in the law profession. He started a little over a year ago, and he was from the Cleveland area, and he served in the Cleveland Law Department for over 20 years. And then he was Berea's law director. So he comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge and charters and things like that. So he'll be very beneficial. He'll be our lead contact person for the committee should they have questions about laws and all that kind of stuff. So he'll be attending the meetings as I will. We would ask that if the chairwoman would communicate with Kathy and Stu so that everybody's not doing so, and then we will answer questions, make ourselves available. What I'd like to offer is that as you set the meetings and what topics you're going to discuss, if the committee wants certain staff available for those particular topics, I'd be happy to provide those to the meeting. Obviously, they're not going to come to every meeting because a lot of them don't pertain to the individual departments, but if it pertains to something in a department, I'll have the department head here for either presentation or question and answer so that you guys can have, direct contact and information from the people that are doing the work. And that's about all I have. Whoever was started in 97 or lived here in 97, I started in 97 with the city, so it was nice to see people that were long tenured. So thank you very much, and I'll turn over to Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. Orzak. Again, thank you for being a part of this process. The charter is perhaps the city's most important single document. It is our constitution, and under Ohio law, Ohio is a home rule state. We are allowed to vary from Ohio law in a very significant number of ways, so long as it's in our charter or we are a charter municipality. Your first introduction to the charter, I serve at the pleasure of Mr. Orzak, is what our charter says, and I will correct him already. I serve as Beechwood's law director after Cleveland, not Berea.
Absolutely. Started with a B.
So I have had personal experience with two charters, the Cleveland Charter and the Beechwood Charter, both charter communities like the city of Sandusky. And we have a very rare and unusual resource for this round. Melanie, to my left here, or one of our assistant law directors, served on the Charter Commission 5 years ago. So she was in your spot 5 years ago. She and I have talked, and she, I think, will be a very valuable resource for us in terms of guiding us. For example, and this is example only, you are in charge of your own agenda group. But I did ask her how you proceeded, and she said that the Charter Review Commission agreed to review certain charter sections at the next meeting. In other words, you could decide to review charter sections 1 through 10, so you all can do your homework on 1 through 10 for the next meeting and limit the discussion to that, or any other way you want to do it. It doesn't have to be 1 through 10, it might have been 1 through 20. I think it was 1 through 20, she said, as a way of getting started. And then, of course, leave room in case any of you have suggestions for new charter provisions, because that's allowed as well. So those can be fully discussed. And again, the only caution, and we as the law department are here to help you. We will take the laboring oar with drafting actual language once your ideas are made known to us. And the only major caution I will give is that I believe charters are better when they are smaller and more general than when they are specific. A charter, as I know you know, is very difficult to change. And as the world changes around us, we want to have a city that's able to adapt to whatever those changes are. And if we make the charter too restrictive, that restricts our government from adapting to whatever we need to adapt to.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Orzak, for Mr. Hastings at this time? Okay. So we will move back to identification of issues to discuss at our next meeting. I do think that the idea provided of breaking up part of the sections to cover at the next meeting would be a good way for everyone to be prepared. And I noticed that they have a similar number of sections to our number of meetings that we've outlined, so it's a convenient way to get started. So I would suggest that we start with at least the form of government and the city commission sections. So items 1 through 16 on the table of contents. Do you have any other ideas or suggestions, Mr. Schwanger?
Kathy, I was able to read the first set of meetings from 5 years ago, but I didn't get a chance to go into like the second, third, or fourth meeting. Do you have any idea, like 5 years ago, how many sections they did for the first meeting, the second? Because some of them are like we're not going to do anything with them, you know, so.
Exactly.
What did they do last time? Do you have any idea?
You're hitting a really good point, Tim, because I did go to Melanie because I wasn't here 5 years as well. So I went through all the meeting minutes from the last charter. And when I saw Melanie was one of them, I went in and I was like, all right, Melanie, tell me what worked, what didn't work, what are your suggestions? And her suggestion was, and correct me, Melanie, if I misspeak here, is to do a larger sum, like 1 through 16 or 1 through 20, for your first maybe 4 meetings. And her suggestion was, if, as you point out each number, like number 1, if no one at the table has anything they see that needs to be changed, don't even just suspend the reading of it and go on to number 2, because she found that that became very laborsome, having to listen to all of them when maybe no one at the table felt anything needed to be changed. Let's just move to the next one. Also, it seemed in the first 4 to 5 meetings, they went through these charter numbers, like 1 through 16, 17 through 30, what have you. And then they would point out, we want to change this. They would go on to the next one. And those would be formatted in a final sheet that I would give you then maybe for your 5th or 6th meeting. So you know those are the ones you want to come back to and deep dive on. You know, so you don't have to do all that deep diving when you're trying to hit 20. Yes, we know there's 2 or 3 people here that would like to see some changes, and people seem to be in agreement of that. So then those came back to the group. You formulated what your changes were. You took a vote on what the majority of the commissioners or the committee wanted to do. Then I take all those, put them in our notes of here's what we want to change. They are taken back to commission. Correct me, Melanie, is the legislation written prior to them going to commission? Or?
From my understanding and experience, I think they were given a draft copy, and then they have to eventually approve those, and then they go to commission.
And then they go to law to draft the legislation. Okay. So therefore, it gives you a couple meetings at the end to go over these, vote on it, make some changes, because maybe some of the things suggested initially, the group said, no, we're not doing that. Let's just concise down to this. I can get everything back to you. I can then, at your second to your last meeting, have everything formulated as I heard it, as it was said. You can vote for all of it, and then that's your final meeting. Voting on what you're given to commission. This is what this committee is suggesting to have changed. And then after they look at it and decide what should be changed in law, the law department writes it all into legislation, which has to be given in August to the Board of Elections to be placed on the ballot for November. So there's a whole timeline we have to stay by, which is why I kept your meetings to June, to give a month for law and commission to approve to get them on the ballot.
Mr. Chairperson, to maybe state it another way, I think part of what you're saying is don't waste too much time grinding through stuff that nobody has any problem with. I've read the charter many times, reviewed it last night, was on the Charter Review Commission, I think 20 years ago. So I've done this once before, and you can waste a lot of time. You tend to have more contentious issues that can take a lot of time, and you don't want to find yourself running out of time to address this. We have, 87 sections here? So I'd encourage everybody to read it and read it and read it again. And if you have any concerns or if you've seen any problems, propose something. One of the most important tenets of Robert's Rules of Order is no speeches. Sorry, that's what's happening here, but generally speaking, nobody's talking unless there's a motion on the table. So instead of endless discussion with no end in sight, it's better that somebody makes a specific proposal in the form of a motion and seconded, not meaning that, hey, I agree we should do this, but saying, hey, this, a second means, sure, it merits discussion, and then at least you're moving forward. So, and I've got a hunch that at least a few of the members here have some concern or some constructive suggestion. I know I have a couple, and I'd love to make sure that those issues, everyone's interests and concerns have plenty of time to be discussed.
Also to note, the last charter review is on the City of Sandusky website. I'm sure Tom had it uploaded, so you can look at that to see what they did last time, if you have any questions or if it,
That would be the changes are on the website?
the minutes and the agendas from the last meetings. So the final minutes would have their proposed changes.
Other comments on future issues and items for our next meeting?
As chairperson,
Yes.
I would find it very helpful for maybe spoon-fed review from the law department of exactly what changes were made over the last couple of charter reviews. What changes ever happened? What was proposed and maybe failed miserably, so that we have a little context, so that we don't like reinvent the wheel or spin our wheels. Is that possible to get a little bit of report of where we've been?
It certainly is. That's all in the public record, we can do that. Now, and I do believe some things have failed, that doesn't mean that they weren't meritorious.
Of course.
So for our next meeting, we'll have that as an
Yeah, we can start
agenda
with
item. Very good. Anything further?
So should I propose that we go through the first 16 before the next meeting as a start, or?
I'm to some degree hearing that do we need to be more aggressive than that based on the schedule of meetings and having things drafted within 8? So not to say we necessarily get through all of them, but perhaps people could feel ready to identify topics or things we'd like to dig into for, might as well go by section, items 1 through 34.
Okay, I'll make that as a motion. 34.
Do you have a second?
I second it. I second.
Any further discussion? Ask the clerk to call roll vote then? Do we need a vote, Mr. Hastings?
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Elizabeth Semler,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zula.
Yes. Mr. Chairperson, as a point of order, I'd like to ask the law director, is it necessary to do a roll call on every minor perfunctory point like a agenda, or can we just do the yeas and nays and save some time?
Under Robert's rules, there are options. It is up to the chairman how we do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda is just open discussion. Anything further? Questions, concerns, things you'd like to see at the next meeting?
I'm not going to give a speech, but I just want to say that I'm coming into this based on the fact that I talk to a lot of people, and whatever I talk about here at future meetings is not my opinion and my opinion only. It's based on what I hear out in the community, what I've heard from other people that have come to the city commission meetings or any other meeting in the city of Sandusky. So I know everybody else is going to do that, the same thing, but I just want to make it known that it's, whatever I do here is not going to be just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanger. Anything further? Okay. Well done, everyone. Made it through our first meeting,
Most.
almost,
You need a motion to adjourn.
and we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We don't have to vote to adjourn, is that correct?
You can do it, you can just call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consensus. We will see you all March 11th at 5 PM.